Here we're going to understand what alkanes are. So firstly, alkanes are hydrocarbons. So let's examine what the word hydrocarbon means. Well, hydrocarbon means it contains hydrogen atoms and carbon atoms, but a key part to this is that it only contains hydrogen and carbon atoms. So it doesn't contain bromine or oxygens, and it only has hydrogens and carbons. The next point about alkanes are that carbons form 4 bonds. Okay, so if you have a carbon in an alkane, it's got to form 4 bonds. If it doesn't have 4 bonds around it, you've got something not quite right there. Another point about alkanes is the ane part implies that there are single bonds only. So throughout the entire structure, there are only single bonds. There's another type called alkenes, and the ene says that means that there is a double bond in it. So alkane has single bonds only. And finally, I'm going to introduce you to some prefixes used in chemistry. So the first one is meth, the second one is eth, the third is prop, and the fourth is bute. And just like I said, so meth in chemistry means 1, eth means 2, prop means 3, and bute means 4. So if you've got methane, ethane, propane, and butane, these are the 4 alkanes that you have to know. Notice they all end in ane, and that shows you that they are alkanes. So these are the 4 we have to know and be able to draw. So let's just put in brackets underneath. Meth is 1, eth 2, prop 3, bute 4, and this indicates the number of carbon atoms. So methane has 1 carbon atom, and it's made of hydrogen and carbon only, and it's got to have 4 bonds. So I've got to draw 4 bonds off my carbon, and it's only carbon and hydrogen. So that is methane. Next up, ethane. Eth means it's got 2 carbons. So let's draw the 2 carbons. Okay, they're bonded. And now every carbon has 4 bonds. So it's already got 1 bond. So now each one needs 3 more. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They're all hydrogens around the edge. So now, if I look at this again, I've got ethane. Eth means 2 carbons, 1, 2. Bond. Does this carbon have 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Does this carbon have 4 bonds? 1, 2, 3, 4. Are they all single bonds? Yes. Is it containing hydrogen and carbon only? Yep. Carbons have 4. Brilliant. Pause it now. Have a go at propane and butane. Propane has 3 carbons, so 1, 2, 3, and each carbon has 4 bonds, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hydrogens all the way around. Let's check it. This carbon has 4 bonds, this carbon has 4 bonds, this carbon has 4 bonds, fab. Finally, butane, 4 carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, each with 4 bonds. It's an alkane, so it's hydrogens and carbons only with single bonds, and there's your answer. Final thing we can do is we can say the formula for each of these. So the formula for methane, well, it's got 1 carbon and 4 hydrogens, so it's CH4. Formula for ethane, well, it's got 2 carbons and 6 hydrogens. Propane has got 3 carbons and 8 hydrogens, and butane has got 4 carbons and 10 hydrogens. Now what you'll notice is if you're looking at these 4 formulas, okay, there is a pattern. So that means there's a pattern for all alkanes that they must follow. So see if you can work it out. If you've got n number of carbons, how many hydrogens do you have? What do you have to do? So here I've got 1 carbon. How do I turn it to 4? The same pattern's got to apply. I've got 2 carbon. How do I turn it to 6? I've got 3 carbon. How do I turn it to 8? 4. How do I turn it to 10? And you should see that the pattern is double it. Double 3 is 6 and add 2, 8. Double it, 2 to 4 and add 2. So the pattern is double and add 2. So the number of hydrogens are 2n add 2. We call this the general formula for alkanes. So any alkane must fit this pattern. So if I told you that there's an alkane and it has 10 carbons, how many hydrogens will it have? Well, it must have the same pattern of double the number of carbons and add 2. So it must have 22 hydrogens. What I would say is that there's very little memory work you have to use here, and that hopefully if you understand the basics, that alkane means it's single bonds, hydrocarbons, hydrogen and carbon has 4 bonds, you should be able to work everything out. So you shouldn't have to memorise what methane looks like or what propane looks like. If you know prop is 3, well, I've got 3 carbons, I can kind of build the rest of it. And then if I can work out the equation, the symbol for it, I can work out the general formula. So you don't have to memorise everything here.